Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to do a weekly recap video. This time we are discussing the Monday Night Raw, which took place on October 13th in Perth, Australia. Wrapping up this WWE weekend in Australia, the first two events, being SmackDown and Crown Jewel, were both pretty eventful. So the thought process going into this one is, can Raw top or maybe just match the momentum that those two shows had? So let's go ahead and get right into it, and we will find out together. Monday Night Raw kicks off with a recap of all things Crown Jewel, and after that we start off Raw like we do most weeks with a member of the Vision. We get not one, not two, but three segments with the Vision tonight. So consider yourself lucky, but maybe hold on to them because we don't know how long we have them. More on that in a bit. The first time we see the Vision, they come out, all four members, including Braun, Bronson, Paul, and Seth. Seth is absolutely feeling himself. Welcomes us to Monday Night Rollins, and then introduced the Oracle, the Badass, and the Ozilla, as he calls them. Fresh off his win over the Tribal Thief, and Seth says none of this would be possible without his vision. He then goes on to say he doesn't need anyone, unlike Roman, Cody, and CM Punk, and that includes the other members of the Vision in the ring with him. So perhaps some hints being dropped here. Probably have to go watch this episode again to see if there are any hints. Obviously, Braun looks pretty pissed off there, but when doesn't he, I guess? So maybe overanalyzing, but just absolutely did not see that coming, and I'm trying to put it off towards the end. The first match of the night is the Penta versus Dominik Mysterio. Dominik defending that Intercontinental Championship. Penta gets the early advantage and is firing on all cylinders. Dom eventually turns the tide back into his favor, and the crowd serenades him while he does so. This ends up being a pretty even back and forth, and this is awesome chants filling the air throughout. The ending comes when Rusev makes his way down to the ring, clearly with ill intentions, but Penta quickly takes him out. As Penta and the ref are then distracted with Rusev, Don grabs the hammer from the timekeeper's area along with the belt. He drops the belt in the middle of the ring to distract the ref once again, and while busy doing that, Dom then hits Penta with the hammer that he put in his boot to get the 619 and the win over Penta, and still your Intercontinental Champion is Dirty Dominik Mysterio. So more of the same, these Eddie-like vibes going on here with Dom. It's crazy that he's still kind of doing these heelish things, but I guess that's kind of how they did it with Eddie too, right? So clearly the path they're going down. Penta can't be happy now that he's been essentially cost his match with Rusev, so perhaps a triple threat on the horizon, but I think both Penta and Rusev can make a case that they still do deserve that title. The title opportunity, I guess I should say. Getting into the next match, we have Rhea Ripley going one-on-one with Kairi Sane. Of course, Rhea accompanied by Io and Kairi accompanied by Asuka. Right before this match, we see Kairi and Asuka continuing their dynamic backstage, and this dynamic being Asuka clearly not happy with the results of their tag match at Crown Jewel. Kairi is told to defend their honor by defeating Rhea Ripley tonight to show to that, which Kairi shows us her bruise on her forehead and says that she put her body on the line for Asuka, to which Asuka gives her another slap for her troubles. So it's basically exactly how I thought that was going to play out, and that we're going to continue the strange dynamic between these two. Asuka's going to continue the heelish ways, basically saying what you did wasn't enough. So Kairi getting the sympathetic kind of feelings towards her. So getting into the actual match, though, this one got a ton of time and a really good showing for Kairi, actually, getting in a good portion of the offense throughout the match. Asuka and Io play a small part, but for the most part are just kind of there for moral support. That is, until the end, Asuka feeling that Kairi's advantage is no longer, and she tries to get Rhea's attention, but is cut off by Io, and Kairi eats a riptide and gets pinned by Rhea for the win. After the match, however, Asuka attacks Io once again until Rhea comes down and grabs Asuka, clears out the announce table, and it looks like that Rhea is going to give Asuka a riptide through the table, but then Kairi comes back and hits Rhea with a kendo stick, and then Asuka hits Rhea with a DDT on the table, and instead of a handful of officials to help Rhea off the table. So I think this ending, along with the Kabuki Warriors, would have been the better way to end the match at Crown Jewel, and it's kind of what I mentioned in that predictions video. But alas, we'll have to wait and see what comes next for Io and Rhea and the Kabuki Warriors going forward. But I think it's safe to say that this is far from over, especially with Kairi and Asuka. But even with Io and Rhea not the type to take this kind of punishment and not have some sort of fighting back. So we'll have to wait and see what happens next. Getting into the second portion of the vision throughout the evening, this is a match that has Bronson Reed going up against Jimmy Uso. Jimmy, not wanting to waste any time here, rushes the ring, and I'm sure this was not a good idea. If that wasn't, his thought, it probably was after the match, because coming off the biggest win of his career, Bronson was more than ready for anything that Big Jim was going to throw at him. Jimmy had a couple moments where it looked like he stood a chance, but the big picture here obviously being Bronson Reed simply wasn't having any of it, takes advantage of the heavily taped ribs of Jimmy Uso, hits that tsunami, and gets the win. After the match, Braun Breaker comes down to congratulate Bronson, senses an opportunity, and hits Jimmy with not one, but two devastating spears. And while Braun ends up going for another one, Jey Uso's entrance music hits just in time to prevent Jimmy from getting hit from that third spear through the barricade. Jey gets a few bumps for his troubles as well as Bronson and Braun retreat, but Jey clearly upset with the fact that he had to come down here and save his brother in the first place, as he has a very important match later on in a number one contenders match. Getting into the next match, we have Bayley and Lyra Valkyria going up against Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez of the Judgment Day. So continuing the saga between the Judgment Day and Bayley and Lyra, while Bayley and Lyra continue to work on their own kind of chemistry as well. Basically, we've seen swapped in and out singles matches for like the last month, it feels like. But this time, everyone's involved. So I like that, at least, making some sort of progress. And speaking of progress, for this match, another one, they got plenty of time. The Australian crowd serenades Bayley throughout the entirety of this one. And this is one of the more evenly matched contests. And just when it seemed that Bayley and Lyra may not be able to overcome the Judgment Day as a team, Lyra tries to awaken the other personality in Bayley and ends up smacking her, to which she laughs maniacally and then quite easily takes out both Roxy and Raquel, as Lyra just looks on with approval. So just like that, perhaps Lyra has this split personality of Bayley's figured out and can now utilize that to her advantage going forward. And perhaps, sneakily so, WWE is building a women's tag division right under our nose. Perhaps wishful thinking, but I love this gimmick with Bayley, and I think KP and I both kind of hit on that in weeks prior. And I imagine this is the best case scenario, and perhaps in upcoming weeks, the dynamic between them won't work quite as well. So interesting bit there, continuing the work on Bayley. It maybe appears, maybe we have something figured out, but I doubt it's that easy. We then see a backstage, well, it's actually an interview with Maxine in front of the crowd with Maxine Dupree, who announces that she's getting a shot at Becky Lynch and her Intercontinental title next week on Raw. So the crowd very much, you deserve a chance. Happy to see that. And with that, we see another segment right after this with Dirty Dom, Adam Pearce, and AJ Styles. This culminates to AJ Styles and Dragon Lee getting a shot at Finn and JD for those World Tag Team titles, also to take place on next Raw. And they definitely put that on Dom, thinking, your big mouth got him into this, so he gets to relay that message to Finn and JD. So interesting to see how that will work out. And just like that, next week's Raw will now have 3 title matches, as Dirty Dom is told once again he will be defending that IC title against Rusev. So as mentioned earlier, clearly Rusev not happy with how that went last week, and Pierce giving him that opportunity. Getting into the main event match, if you will, is the number one contenders match for that World Heavyweight Championship, and it includes Jey Uso, LA Knight, and CM Punk. This was a pretty fun main event. All three men kind of take their claim, or try to make their claim to be the next challenger for Seth Rollins. And in the end, however, it is CM Punk who hits that GTS on Jey Uso to get the win. And CM Punk, to no surprise, at least to me, is now your number one contender. So Punk and Rollins on the horizon. And again, always nice to see a main event that doesn't include the Vision. But it doesn't quite end there. Seth immediately makes his way down to the ring with the Vision, and Braun sprints ahead of the rest of the group and hits both Jey and LA Knight with a spear. Punk is in the middle of the ring at this point, surrounded by the Vision. Braun and Bronson ambush Punk as Rollins looks on in approval. Braun then hits a spear on Punk as Bronson hits the tsunami, as Rollins can't help but love what he's seeing and tells Punk he'll never get that title from him and instructs Braun to remove Punk from the ring. So all things clearly seemingly going the Vision's way until literally the credits are rolling for Monday Night Raw, and Braun Breaker hits Seth Rollins, his own team member from the Vision, with a spear, to the absolute shock of definitely Paul Heyman, or at least that's the expression he shows, and also Bronson. And I guess we'll find out if all of that, especially from Paul, is legitimate or is some kind of ruse. Obviously, Paul is no stranger to that. But I don't trust Paul as far as I can throw him. But he does genuinely look shocked here. But ends up raising the hand of both Braun and Bronson. Just like that, the Vision is over, or at least greatly altered. Braun walks up to Bronson and says, you're with me or against me. And then he hits Seth with a tsunami. So clearly he's with him. Paul obviously raising both of their hands, but just his look there and kind of during this whole segment, it appeared to be shocked. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, the way it happened towards like the very, very end of the Raw too, this was a huge shock for me. I wish KP was here to voice his opinion. But this, to me, feels way out of the blue, way too early. I know we've been hinting at that over the last few weeks. Paul kind of saying if Seth didn't win that match against Cody at Crown Jewel, there was a bigger, better, or a bigger and different conversation that had to be had. But I thought this faction was going to be running Raw until at least next Mania, or at least the build up into it, and this is not even 6 months out. Lots of emotion here. I think personally, I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. I had mentioned the fact that I thought Braun didn't need this group, and so maybe that's why the decision's being made. But to do this, kind of turn their back on Seth so quickly, it feels like they just kind of had gotten. They were really starting to hit their stride, it felt like, especially with Bronson getting that win over Roman at Crown Jewel. So, yeah, that's an interesting decision. I won't, my gut reaction is I don't like it, but I'll wait and see what happens, what they make of it, let them cook a bit, see if they make sense of it. But clearly a very topical ending, to say the least. So, I just kind of sat in there shocked after Raw ended. I was like, whoa. That kind of came out of nowhere. But with that is the Raw recap for this October 13th edition of Monday Night Raw. Overall, for me, this was a very action-packed episode. It gave us quite a few good matches, continued storyline with both Asuka and Bayley, who are both absolutely killing it right now. We also have a new number one contender in that of CM Punk. But the entire dynamic around that Punk-Rollins match and for the World Heavyweight title has essentially kind of gone up in smoke, at the very least seen a seismic shift in that entire storyline. So I guess we'll have to wait and see kind of what happens with that in the upcoming weeks. But clearly a shift will be taking place on Monday Night Raw. Curious to see kind of what the decision was there. Seth was very much cocky and arrogant throughout the whole episode of Raw, but that was really nothing new. And based on the opening segment, it felt like all things were business as usual. So very curious to see kind of what answers we get for that. But overall, a pretty good episode of Raw, tons of good matches, and a few crazy bits, especially with that ending. So I'll give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Again, I don't love the turn and the breakup of the Vision, or at least the altering of the Vision so quickly, but we'll wait and see how they kind of make sense of that. But with that has been the Raw recap for the push. And if you like what we are putting out there, please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as that helps us out tremendously. We'll be back shortly with that NXT recap, as well as the SmackDown recap, but a lighter week, comparatively speaking to the last few weeks anyways. But with that, this has been The Push with Nick and KP. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care.